The lecture hall was silent in the way only humiliation can silence a room. Not the calm silence of focus, but the heavy silence of someone being erased in real time. The professor stood at the front like a final authority over reality itself. His voice carried the certainty of someone who had never been questioned in years. "Pack your things," he said flatly, not even looking at her anymore. "You are not suited for this department." Every head in the room turned at once. Some students shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A few smirked quietly, enjoying the spectacle in the way people do when the spotlight isn't on them. No one defended her. No one interrupted. At the far corner of the room, the girl slowly closed her notebook. Her movements were careful, controlled, almost too calm for what was happening. Her name was Elena Carter, and in that moment, something inside her didn't break. It simply went quiet. Not defeated, just sealed away. She stood up slowly, the chair scraping faintly against the floor, a sound that felt louder than anything else in the room. The professor finally glanced at her. His expression was not anger. It was disappointment mixed with arrogance, like she was an equation he had already solved and discarded. "You've been warned before," he said. "You confuse imagination with intelligence." A few students chuckled. Elena didn't respond. She picked up her notebook. Not rushing, not resisting, just accepting the moment for what it was. And then she walked out. But what no one noticed was that her eyes weren't empty. They were observing everything, remembering everything. Elena came from a place the university brochures never mentioned. A small industrial town where mornings started before sunrise and ended when exhaustion decided they were over. Her father worked maintenance jobs in collapsing factories. Her mother cleaned buildings that never remembered her name. Electricity cuts were normal. Dreams were not. But Elena had always been different in a way no one understood. While other kids complained about homework, she used broken radios, old calculators, and discarded machines to understand patterns no one had taught her. She didn't just study physics. She questioned why physics behaved the way it did. And when she was accepted into one of the most prestigious universities in the country, people in her town didn't celebrate loudly. They just looked at her like she was walking into a world that would not be kind. They were right. Professor Adrian Cole was the kind of man whose reputation entered a room before he did. Published papers, global conferences, endless citations, and a personality that had been sharpened over years of being unquestioned. In his classroom, there was only one rule. Correctness mattered more than curiosity. Students didn't experiment under his supervision. They complied. He often said, "Science is not creativity. It is discipline." And Elena was a problem he never expected. Because she didn't argue loudly. She didn't challenge him emotionally. She simply questioned the foundations of his certainty. Not disrespectfully, not rebelliously, just differently. And that difference irritated him more than open defiance ever could. It started with small things. During lectures, while others wrote down formulas, Elena would pause and stare at the derivation like she was seeing something behind it. One day, she raised her hand. "If we assume the system isn't isolated," she said carefully, "doesn't that change the stability condition entirely?" The room went still. Professor Cole didn't answer immediately. He looked at her for a moment too long. Then he said, "You are assuming conditions that do not exist in this framework." Elena nodded once, but she didn't accept it. That was the difference. She didn't accept rejection as final. Weeks passed. Assignments returned with red marks across her pages. Incorrect approach. Unnecessary complexity. Lacks discipline. Her peers started avoiding sitting near her. Not because she was wrong, but because she made them question things they preferred to memorize. And memorization was safer. Safer meant survival. Elena kept going anyway. Late nights in the library. Early mornings in empty classrooms. Pages of equations slowly covering every surface of her small apartment. Until one particular assignment changed everything. It was labeled as unsolved. A theoretical model that had resisted solution for decades. Even published researchers avoided it. Professor Cole wrote it on the board like a test of worth. "If anyone in this room believes they belong here," he said, "solve it." Silence followed. Then Elena spoke. Not loudly, not confidently, just honestly. "I think the issue is the assumption of fixed boundary constraints." A few students laughed under their breath. One whispered, "Here she goes again." Professor Cole turned slowly. "Explain." Elena stood up. And she did. Step by step, she reconstructed the assumption itself, not solving the equation directly, but challenging the structure holding it in place. The room shifted. The laughter faded. Even the professor's expression changed slightly. Not approval, but alertness, like he was watching something unpredictable unfold. Then he cut her off. That is not how this system works. Elena paused and nodded, not in agreement, but in understanding that she had crossed an invisible line. Understood, she said softly, and sat down. 3 days later, she was called into the dean's office. No warning, no explanation in advance, just paper waiting on a desk. The dean didn't look at her directly. He spoke like someone reading policy, not making a decision. Professor Cole has formally recommended your removal from the program. Elena didn't react immediately. She simply looked at the paper. Not surprised, not emotional, almost as if she had already calculated this outcome long before it arrived. And the reason? She asked. The dean hesitated, then said, inability to align with the department's methodology. Elena nodded slowly. That phrase sounded clean, but it meant something else entirely. She signed the document. No protest, no argument, because she understood something most people didn't. Being right in the wrong environment still makes you wrong in their system. And systems rarely admit they are wrong. That night, she didn't go home and collapse into despair. She worked. Her small apartment became a field of scattered pages, handwritten derivations, coffee-stained notes, and equations that didn't belong to any textbook. There was no audience now. No professor watching. No classmates laughing. Only silence. And in that silence, something shifted. Elena revisited the same equation that had caused her removal. But this time, she wasn't trying to prove herself. She was trying to understand what everyone else had missed. Hour after hour passed. Outside, the world moved normally. Inside, reality was being reconstructed. At one point, she stopped and stared at a pattern forming across her wall. Not random, not theoretical chaos, but structure, hidden structure. A dependency that no one had considered because no one had questioned the starting assumption itself. Her pencil moved faster. Pages multiplied. The solution wasn't just emerging. It was revealing itself, like it had always been there, waiting for someone to notice. By sunrise, she stopped, not because she was tired, but because it was complete. She submitted her findings to an independent research archive. No title attached that mattered. No expectations. Just a document uploaded into silence. Then she went back to her life. For exactly 3 days. On the 4th day, everything changed. It started quietly. A research lab in Germany flagged the paper. Then a university in Japan replicated part of it. Then a theoretical physics institute in Switzerland confirmed it. Within hours, the scientific world was no longer calm. It was unstable, because what they were reading was impossible. Not just correct, but previously believed to be unsolvable. The equation that had resisted generations of researchers had been solved by someone unknown. No publications. No institutional backing. Just a name. Elena Carter. At first, they assumed it was a mistake. Then they verified it. Then they rechecked it again. And again. And every time, the result remained the same. Correct. Undeniably correct. Back at the university, Professor Cole received the notification during a faculty meeting. He opened it casually. Read the abstract. Then stopped. His expression didn't change immediately, but something in his posture tightened slightly. He read further. The room around him continued speaking, unaware. Then he raised a hand. "Excuse me," he said, distracted. "I need a moment." He stepped out into the hallway. Read it again, and again, until the words stopped feeling like text, and started feeling like a problem he could not solve. At the bottom of the document was a line, derived independently following academic dismissal. His breath slowed. For the first time in years, Professor Adrian Cole did not have an immediate answer. By the next morning, the university was in chaos. Emails from international institutions flooded in, calls from research organizations, requests for clarification, and one repeated question: who is Elena Carter? The administration pulled records, found her file, saw the expulsion, and everything stopped being internal. It became public, because the student they dismissed was now attached to one of the most significant breakthroughs in modern theoretical physics. And the man who expelled her was now connected to the mistake. Pressure built. Fast. Uncontrollably and quietly, the institution reversed its decision, not out of guilt, but out of necessity. They issued an emergency reinstatement, along with a formal recognition request. But Elena did not respond immediately, because she was no longer where they had left her. They found her days later. Same apartment, same desk, same silence. When the university delegation arrived, she didn't appear surprised. She already knew they would come. The dean spoke first. "This changes everything," he said carefully. "We would like you to return." Elena looked at them for a long moment. Not angry, not emotional, just distant. Then she closed her notebook. Slowly. "I understand," she said. A pause. Then she added, "But I don't return to places that only see me after I prove I exist." Silence filled the room. No one answered, because there was nothing left to argue against. Months later, at an international physics symposium, Elena stood on a stage in front of the world. Scientists from every major institution watched. Researchers who once dismissed similar ideas now listened carefully. Professor Cole was in the audience. Not introduced, not acknowledged, just present, watching, as Elena explained the framework that had reshaped a field. No anger in her voice, no revenge, only precision. But because she had already proven she didn't need permission to be right.